What's up, everybody? Back at it again with another podcast here with the Jungle Boys. We got Brian Trin here, Chris Lynch, Richard Lynch, and myself, Daniel Kahn. Thank you for joining in on us today. Chris, what did you have in store for us today?
So she's actually probably going to listen to this, but throughout the week, I started talking with her. And one topic that, that was brought up to my mind was, do women have higher expectations of men, or do men have higher expectations of women? And this is a topic that I really wanted to talk about because I hear in the media like, oh, men has such high expectations of like a woman to look pretty and this and that stuff. And then women are saying like, we don't really have expectations, but I feel like that's just faulty. That's a lie on itself.
What type of media though?
I'm talking about all media overall.
Because I feel like there's definitely like age ranges and certain demographics that express different views.
Well, I wanted to start with this especially. Do you think that men, in the sense of like, do you think that men really care about if a woman has a job or does something like monetary wise or like looks wise? For example, there's men out here that don't care about women if they have a job or anything at all. Like in the sense of like, for example, if a woman goes to a broke man, that woman will drop that dude. Like he will drop him because he's broke. While a man will not drop a woman because she's broke. No, think about it. You know Jeff Bezos got divorced, right? Who's the richest woman right now? Jeff Bezos' ex-wife.
That's on him. That's on him, though.
No, but what did she do? Nothing. She hasn't produced nothing.
But you can't. Jeff Bezos. That situation you can't look at in terms of like, oh, she did nothing. And
but how many stories are there of that woman?
But like, you have to look at why they got divorced. You can't just.
Okay, there's a specific reason with that
like,
too.
Dude, okay, look, I feel like you can't say like one or the other. I feel like there's like it really just depends on the person. And
well, I'm talking about in general. Do you think women have higher expectations of men, or do men have higher expectations of women?
I think women have higher expectations of men in certain categories, but men have the same higher expectations for women in certain categories.
This is a good topic. What are your expectations of your woman, the woman that you want, or woman in general? What is your expectation?
Well, so I think that's something that, like, for me personally, I would like let my wife or, you know, whoever I'm with choose of how she would want to live her life. And obviously, I think that our lives should complement each other. It shouldn't be on the basis of, oh, her life is going to be like this, so my life's going to be like this, or because my life is like this, her life has to be like that. I think it has to go with like,
has to be mutually beneficial.
Yeah, it has to be mutually beneficial, because that's a sign of a healthy relationship. If you're not doing that, then you're not in a healthy relationship, and I recommend you get out immediately. Like, that's all I got to tell you.
Nah, but it's like, does it have to be like 50-50 equal? I always hear people saying like, no, it has to be 50-50, but it's supposed to be 100-100 though.
See, but that's interesting that you say I always hear people, right? Because this goes back to, again, the statement of men having expectations of women, women having expectations of men. Are those actually real expectations that they cultivated themselves, or is it something they saw on social media and they were like, oh, you know what? My last relationship was like this, so yeah, this is how it is. Like, it's not actually well thought out of as an expectation.
Dude, coming from a personal experience, like I feel like your perception on like how a certain gender is very skewed, because you can have that perception after an experience, right? Like, let's say, like, you know, like a guy cheats on a girl or a girl cheats on a guy. How do you think that person, how do you think the victim of that is going to react? Being like, where do you think Men is Trash came from? It's obviously because, like, women got played by guys. But, like, obviously men also have trust issues in women, because plenty of men have been played by girls, too. It's a double-edged sword, bro. Like, you can't just say one or the other.
100%. The one caveat I will say to that though is, and this is more so related to custody matters in the family courts.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
Men are always
Definitely.
stacked up
Yeah.
against.
Oh my God.
would
I don't-
say-
I think that's coming from an objective standpoint. I don't think that there's any way to really argue that. I understand the arguments that are made because obviously a child is closest with its mother and that's natural.
of
right?
course.
But then there are cases where not just in terms of providing, men are able to, but like providing financially and even emotionally. Because you hear about so many cases where it's like the children are clearly closer with their fathers, but it's like they have to go into the mother's custody because
That's
you know,
just how it
how it
always
is.
Yeah.
and the father just is a financial figure at that point. You know,
Well, I agree with you completely, but I want to go back to the whole thing about expectations from both gender in the sense of like, what expectations do I really have for women in that sense?
I feel like when it comes to expectations, you have to keep in mind of what you're expecting in a realistic relationship, because guess what? If we're talking about looks, that stuff doesn't really matter. Let's all agree on that, right? It matters to the extent that yes, you should be attracted to the person that you're with, but in terms of expectations, you should be like, hey, this is my vision for how I'd want to raise my family or how I would want to live my life. Do yours align with that? And I feel like people don't often have this conversation enough, and that's why people get into failed friendships, relationships, whatever it may be. So if you're talking about expectation, that's just between you and the person that you have to really discuss.
When I mean expectations, like, don't you have like a checklist when you meet a girl, like, oh, she's checking all the boxes that I think of? That's what I think of expectations. Like for example, everyone has different expectations, right? So, for example, do you think most women's expectation is that they do not want a broke person, somebody broke with no ambition? They don't want a man.
I mean, would you want a woman like that?
Well, it's different. Most men were raised that we are the nuclear center, that we are the ones who carry the burden of bringing the bread in that type of sense. I know it's a conservative view.
No. Not necessarily that factor of finances, but men definitely do have expectations of women in terms of appearances.
Yes,
Because
that's
you
where I
cannot
can
lie to
agree.
yourself if her appearance doesn't match up. And let's say you did want to start a family, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you were looking at someone and they matched all your per se expectations, but you know they weren't up per se to your quality, and you know you're gonna spend the rest of your life with this person, obviously you're not gonna pursue that. So
I
men
would.
definitely do have like the same type of expectations as women do in terms of the finances, but it's not the finances. Do you get what I mean?
No,
I-
okay.
Well, this is my thing about this. I feel like when we talk about men expectations, I mean like raw expectations when you meet a female. The first, like, I don't know why, but yes, the first thing you look is at looks, because it's reproductive systems, how your children
It's
are gonna,
biological.
it's biological thing. That's the first thing you look. And to be honest, to us, I feel like most men is the most important thing, because, for example, I was raised to the point, I feel like we all were raised like nobody's gonna pay your bills, nobody's gonna do anything for you. Like, I can cook, I can clean, I can do everything. To be honest, I am so self-sufficient that why do you even need a female? You know what I mean? So it comes to that like that, and some females are like that. Like, why do I need a man when I'm so self-sufficient of itself?
The thing is, though, like, you have to understand it's good to be self-sufficient for your time being as a bachelor, and it is good to be self-sufficient for if, like, let's say anything like bad happens.
But that's what happens when you are self-sufficient. Then you are like, what are actually my expectations of my
But you have to
counterpart?
understand, dude. Like, you have to understand, bro. Like, you think about it, right? You're 21 years old right now.
Mhm.
Like, do you want to be single and just living in your own apartment at 31, 41?
No,
51?
but I'm saying, the thing that I'm saying is that when you have a self-sufficiency, like you're so efficient by yourself, the expectations of your female counterpart decreases, because you're like, okay, does she needs to cook or clean? I can cook and clean. Does she needs to have a job? I am a provider. I make enough certain amount of money to be able to cover for all the expenses. Do I need this or that. No, I'm self-sufficient. Now you're decreasing your checklist of what things you need. For most women, I am not trying to stereotype women, but for most women, not all women are self-sufficient in the sense of money-wise. And that's kind of like my whole entire
I think that's
thing.
a generalization. I think like end of the day, bro, yeah, you can be self-sufficient, but what it comes down to is everyone just being like, yeah, I'm self-sufficient, and maybe the girl I'm trying to pursue is self-sufficient also. That's the compliment, bro. That's what you really need to focus on.